I want to ask you about a new Atlantic profile that says that then President Trump complained to Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, after an Army veteran who lost a leg in combat sang at the Pentagon, at an event at the Pentagon. Trump reportedly told Milley, quote, "Why do you bring people like that here? No one wants to see that, the wounded." Now, after that article came out, Trump attacked Milley on social media. It was kind of a rambling post, but he suggested that Milley deserved the death penalty. You are a veteran. What's your response?
It's just the latest in a pattern of outrageous attacks on the people who keep this country safe. And September puts me in a reflective mood because it's actually tomorrow, 9 years ago now, that I got back to South Bend after my one tour in Afghanistan. I served with people who did 5, 6, 7 tours, some of them after being injured. I served with a guy who had the fin of a rocket go through his tricep while he was standing he was standing in Ghazni province, and miraculously the rocket didn't blow up and kill him. But he was eager to get back onto his next tour when I got to serve with him. I, in an airport, ran into someone I served with who basically had her leg shut off. And with her new leg, when I ran into her, asked her how she was doing, she said, the Navy fixed me up just fine, and she went right on to her next assignment. These are the kind of people who deserve respect and a hell of a lot more than that from every American, and definitely from every American president. And the idea that an American president, the person to whom service members look as a commander-in-chief, and the person who sets the tone for this entire country, could think that way or act that way or talk that way about anyone in uniform, and certainly about those who put their bodies on the line and sacrificed in ways that most Americans will never understand. And I guess wounded veterans make President Trump feel uncomfortable. When I encounter somebody who put their body on the line and paid a price for this country, I feel about this big, because I see what they've done, and I see again and again and again their willingness to continue giving. But those are exactly the kinds of people we should lift up, because their commitment could help unify the country. And we need voices, whether it's ordinary people, service members, or political leaders, who are interested in unifying, not dividing Americans.
I don't know how many times Republicans need to learn this lesson, but maybe, for once, don't underestimate Pete Buttigieg. Here we have the Secretary of Transportation, a veteran who served in Afghanistan as a Navy intelligence officer, calling out the guy who lied about bone spurs to avoid serving over his disdain for those who actually serve their country, in particular the ones who were wounded while doing so. But hey, party of the military, am I right? This all comes after a piece was published in The Atlantic that sheds new light on how far Mark Milley had to go to protect our country from Trump's maniacal insanity. For example, the article details how Milley visited America's nuclear arsenal and assured other military leaders and lawmakers that he would prevent any illegal or crazy orders from Trump to launch nuclear weapons. He resisted Trump's attempts to use the military against peaceful protesters and to overturn the election results. He also deflected Trump's urges to commit war crimes. We learned that Milley was disturbed by Trump's contempt and ignorance of the military and his lack of honor, sacrifice, and duty. Milley had buried many soldiers who had served under his command and had to listen to Trump denigrate American service members in private. Milley was initially chosen by Trump, according to the article, because he looks like a, quote, carnivore and a warrior. Turns out that Milley was independent-minded, outspoken, and loyal to the country, not to Donald Trump. I know, what a concept. In other words, Milley had to deal with not only the traditional challenges that face the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in a post-9/11 world, but also an American president who was undermining the U.S. Constitution and threatening national security, and he did it without any support from other senior officials who had either left or been fired by Trump. And all of this builds on information that we learned from The Atlantic previously about Trump's views on American service members back in 2020. They previously reported that Donald Trump repeatedly disparaged the intelligence and sacrifice of American service members, especially those who died or were wounded in war. For example, he canceled a visit to the American military cemetery near Paris in 2018 because he feared his hair would become disheveled in the rain, and because he didn't believe it important to honor those who died during the war. He said, quote, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers." He also referred to the more than 1,800 Marines who lost their lives in a major battle during World War I as suckers for getting killed. He also asked aides who were the good guys in this war and why would the U.S. intervene on the side of the Allies. Because as if the unadulterated hatred of those who actually fought for their country wasn't enough, of course Trump has to also side with Germany in a war fought against literal Nazis. Although in retrospect, I guess that part makes a little more sense given what we know about Trump now. He also asked that wounded veterans be kept out of the military parades because he said, quote, "Nobody wants to see that." He called former President George H.W. Bush a loser for being shot down by the Japanese as a Navy pilot in World War II. He also criticized General John Kelly, his former chief of staff, for not being able to handle the grief of losing his son. And of course, one of the most famous examples, he didn't want to honor the late Senator John McCain, a former prisoner of war in Vietnam. Trump told his senior staff, quote, "We're not going to support that loser's funeral," and he became furious, according to the witnesses, when he saw those flags lowered to half staff. Quote, "What the fuck are we doing that for? Guy was a fucking loser." And for the Trump supporters who want to deny the obvious reality right in front of them, let's all remember that Trump literally said these sorts of things out loud on camera. Here he is on John McCain.
John McCain goes, "Oh boy, Trump makes my life difficult." He had 15,000 crazies show up. Crazies. He called them all crazy. I said, they weren't crazy. They were great Americans. These people, if you would have seen these people, I know what a crazy is. I know all about crazies. These weren't crazy. So he insulted me, and he insulted everybody in that room. And I said, somebody should run against John McCain, who has been, in my opinion, not so hot. And I supported him. I supported him for president. I raised $1 million for him. It's a lot of money. I supported him. He lost. He let us down. But, he lost. So I never liked him as much after that, because I don't like losers. But Frank, let me get to it. He hit me. He's not a war hero. He's a war hero. He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
Do you agree with that?
He's a war hero because he was captured, okay? You can have, and I believe perhaps he's a war hero, but right now he said some very bad things about a lot of people.
So if he was willing to say something that vile in front of an audience and a camera, it doesn't take much brainpower to conclude that he says much worse things when he thinks no one is recording his statements. So let's just be honest here, Donald Trump has always been a coward and a disgrace, but his feelings toward the people who actually serve their country honorably instead of trying to tear down their country for personal gain reveals just how irrevocably broken his worldview is. He thinks those who actually sacrifice for something greater than themselves makes them suckers, which explains why everything he's ever done in his life has been in service of himself at the expense of everyone else, even and especially his closest supporters. And the fact that this guy ran with the pro-military branding sums up perfectly just how much of a con Trump and the rest of the GOP actually are. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to this channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.